Well, ladies and gentlemen, as promised, we have a fantastic guest with us today. We are sitting wonderfully here, Ron Nieves and myself. This is a fun extended interview for GI Jam session with a fellow musician, Shannon Book, who's also a veteran, of course. So before we get started, as we always do, Shannon, radio check over. How do you read me?
I read you Lima Charlie, brother.
Fantastic.
Alrighty then.
So we'll get started. We always like to know your origin story pre-service. So if we could walk Ron and I and our listeners through why you joined the service, and I'm fascinated by your MOS and the branch. If you could explain what were the circumstances that led to that?
Wow, that's like a loaded question.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
What do you expect from
what
the Lima Charlie show?
what
Yeah.
kind of trauma did you get in order to
Yeah.
do your job? Like, all right, cool. It sounds great. Let's do it. Let's do a whole 2 hour therapy session. It sounds good. Um, no, so I grew up in a small town in Hazel Green, Kentucky. If you're looking for a bigger, closer town, it would be London. And if that's not big enough, then it would be Lexington. Um, so I grew up in a small town of nowhere, Kentucky, which is still probably one of my favorite places to visit and experience my family and friends. And um, I don't know. When I growing up, like my grandfather owned a department store in our little town that competed really well with like um like Sears and stuff like that. But once Walmart happened, like he lost that business. He had to sell out. My dad still owned a business, and I did, all that stuff. It was a little tough on the family. We didn't have a lot of money, but we had enough money to run a business. We were small town, small business, family. There was a lot of struggle, but we all did well and got through it and made it to where we made it in life today. But we at some point I was watching the Gulf War on TV just like everybody else. There was 5 channels in the whole world.
Right.
We were all watching, hey, somebody get the remote. Oh wait, that's me. Remember those days?
Oh, yeah.
Not that I'm trying to share my age or nothing, but so we were watching the Gulf War on TV, and it just kind of became, I don't know, it's just something that kind of struck a chord with me. And my grandfather was in the Navy. My other grandfather was a soldier. And it just kind of, I don't know, man. Like it just kind of made sense. My grandfather started talking to me about the Navy. And what I really wanted to do was be a Marine, which was weird because like all these people are like, oh, well, like, let me tell you about this. Let me tell you about, you should try this out. You should check this out. Well, so long story short, I went into the Marine Corps recruiting office, of course, like a dummy. And I I was ready to join the Marine Corps. Did the PFT and did the PFT screener. I did the ASVAB screener, and then it's time to go back and talk to Gunny in the back of his office while he's chewing Copenhagen, spitting in his coffee cup. You know, and and this is a recruiter back in 93, 93 or whatever. But he's like, "What do you want to do, boy?" And I'm like, "I want to be a doctor." And he goes, "What?" He goes, "You don't want to be a sniper? You don't?" I was like, "No, I want to be a doctor." So he spits in his coffee cup one more time, and he gets up out of his chair and he goes, "Follow me, boy." Walks me across the hall to the freaking Navy office and looks at this second class boiler tech, and he goes, "Boats, this young man right here wants to be a Fleet Marine Force Navy Corpsman. Make it happen." And I was like, right on, whatever that means. Sounds cool. So I went into that office, and the rest is history. July 12th of 1994, I was in San Diego boot camp at RTC San Diego, getting lifed by some sailor like at like 3 o'clock in the morning on, coming off of a plane. So,
Yeah. And I don't think a lot of people, if you're not familiar with the military branches and all that, I don't think people realize how Navy corpsmen are embedded with Marines and how that all works.
they generally don't. It's like the adage is like, oh, you're a medic, and it makes all of us cringe because we're like, medic. Oh, why would you call us that? Like, I don't give band-aids out. That's not what I do. And it's not their fault. I mean, and the school's together now, so it's a merged school, but
right. Yeah, that's a recent change. Yeah.
but it's an entirely different animal. Like being a medic and being a corpsman are two different animals. And most people just don't understand. Oh, you were in the Navy. When you say Navy Marine Corps, people's minds go they don't understand, man. It's like, oh, then you were in the Marines. You're in the Navy. Wait, so how are you? And then you tell them your rank, and you're like, I'm a petty officer, and they're like, you're an office. Why I don't understand the petty part. So it's really weird because people are just like, I don't get it. So I have this running joke, and I'm like, I just tell people I made ice cream because it's easier. It's just easier to tell them that I made ice cream, and you'd be surprised how many people believe that. Yeah. Well, those Marines, they love their ice cream. You're pretty.
That's awesome. So your time in the service, I know you had to travel a lot. I know you did a couple of deployments in that, but and through that whole process, I mean, you want to talk about any of those we'll call them adventures, or
Sure.
perhaps any lessons learned through that experience?
Oh Lord. There's first of all, like, you like people talk about, bring our troops back, bring our troops home, like, hey, that's all great and it's all fine and well, but the reality is, since World War I, we've always been deployed.
Right.
We're deployed as a deterrent, and most of it's peacekeeping. People don't understand that. Most people don't understand that today, which is mind-boggling.
Yeah.
But so there was a lot of deployments. There were Unitas and Caritoses and Westpacks and all that stuff that was going on, just to keep the grid squares like clean and out of trouble. But those were routine deployments. I have done two combat deployments, and both of those were probably the most kinetic thing I've ever done in the 17 years of my service, which was, it used to be hard to talk about. Now, with almost 4 years of sobriety and a lot of therapy, I can talk about all of it. So, right. Which is what I really want to tell anybody right now, is that, like, all that stuff that I've had to deal with was really hard because I kept trying to do it by myself. And it took me a very long time to learn that medicating and what's the word I'm looking for? Medicating and denying the situation just makes it worse.
Yeah.
So the reality is that talking about it and getting to know who I am after those moments was probably the best thing I've ever done. So that would be the biggest lesson that I would tell anybody, to be completely honest with you. But be honest with you, I learned a lot of lessons in the military. I learned a lot.
Sure.
Like what countries not to go to.
Yeah. Best places to not vacation.
Yeah. This is not a vacation zone. It's really pretty, except for at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. Yeah. Ron and I spent some time together overseas in Iraq, and I used to make an ongoing joke. every once in a while just randomly look at someone else and go, this is not anything like the brochure. I mean, the sand, the sands here, but the Sandals Resort Baghdad version is nowhere.
No, Sandals Resort Baghdad. Where's the water?
Now, I will confess, it was all inclusive. They didn't lie about that. I didn't have to tip anybody, but
right. right. It was a cheap trip. It was definitely a cheap trip. Maybe not for the taxpayer, but for us, it was cheap.
Right. Yeah, that's wild. That's wild.
So, but no, listen, I wouldn't change anything that I've ever experienced.
Yeah.
And all of that stuff has caused a lot of trouble in my life.
Yeah.
But to be honest with you, where I'm standing at today, all of that stuff also has made me who I am today. So those things are important. And I don't know that I would ever change it. I'm grateful that God gave me all those lessons.
Yeah, absolutely. And God's using you now. And I mean, we got to talk about your music, obviously, but I mean, all you got to do is look at any of your work online and you see these comments from people, especially with the heavy hitting songs, like your Dear Mom. We'll talk about that also, but you're helping people that you'll probably never meet. You probably haven't even seen the comments that Ron and I have watched, but there's other soldiers, there's other service members, there's other veterans, there's other families of just people that have gone through all sorts of things that you're hitting the tone with some of your music in a way that's so. I mean, you're obviously incredibly talented, but you're also doing some work there that's it's beyond music.
Music
can heal, and it's you're hitting an even higher note there.
Well, and I appreciate that recognition. I really, because some people are just like, oh man, your music's really cool. And I'm like, cool. Facebook thumbs up, give you a big blue thumb up. But when you hear somebody say that, and this song, Dear Mom, I was asked to write that song, and man, that's the longest. That song took the longest for me to ever really finish.
I can imagine. Yeah,
because I was asked by Rachel Jackson, the lady who was managing me at the time, who really had no idea what she had her hands into, but she's like, do you think you can write a song for Gold Star Moms? And I'm like, I'll try, because being a corpsman, your answer to everything is yes, I'll take care of it.
Right.
I got you. Doc's got this. Don't you worry. Hey, can you set your boots on fire and run around in a heart? Absolutely. Sure. I got you. Sounds good. But I didn't say no. And it took me 8 months to write that song. And because I was thinking to myself, what do you say to a mom who's lost her child to combat?
Yeah.
What do you say to a mom who's lost a child, period? That's not something that should ever be common. And so, and then, I hear people talk about a song called Not Alone that I've written. That's it's about suicide. And the three people that try to talk this guy out of it and understand that, it's we're all dealing with stuff and he didn't have to fight it alone. That song, I don't feel like I wrote that song. I feel like I woke up in a hangover and that song was writing itself because God was like, hey, bro, all that stuff you're talking about? It's time to get up and write, bro. Time to get up and write. I'm like, no, I'm hungover. God, leave me alone. But he woke me up and it didn't happen. It didn't happen the way I wanted it to happen. It just happens.
Yeah.
So a lot of times things just happen.
Yeah.
And it's God's plan. And I think that what I'm doing is, I don't think that what I'm doing is God's plan. I think that God's plan happens and I just am lucky enough to be a part of it.
Yeah. I sometimes say that, because my whole life I grew up with a very you know, a lot of wonderful religious people that would tell me things like, God will open a door for you, God will push you, have you meet people you're supposed to meet. That's all fine and dandy, but us veterans know that some of us are stubborn. So
Yeah, oh yeah.
it's not beneath God to just trip us once in a while or,
Yeah.
or shove us down a
Throw-
flight of stairs to get
Throw a
our
rock at me or something. Yeah.
Sometimes the way finds you. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh wow, why am I in the Cornwall Valley? This is weird. Right. So yeah, you're not wrong. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like God lays out a path for us all, and at my point in life, I think that I'm just grateful that he still keeps me in the loop.
Yeah.
You know, like I wasn't always a great guy, but I spent a couple nights in at a Holiday Express, so it's, you know, so that helps. So that helps a little.
That's awesome. So catch us up to, like, obviously when you got out of the service, there was a transition period there, and you know, I know your backstory, but our listeners don't necessarily
Sure.
know everything about you yet. Walk us through like the process of taking music into a path of like, this is what I'm going to do forever now, and how all that came about with your, you know, you collaborate with a lot of people. We talked offline before about our good friend Mike Corrado, and you
Sure.
work on some things as well. But
Yeah,
walk us through like how all that evolved, because
Yeah, I mean, it came out of the stresses from deployments and just, the day to day. You were just playing your guitar in
Yeah.
missions.
Well,
And,
yeah, absolutely. And it's weird. So first of all, I started playing music probably in the 5th grade when I started playing saxophone. But so I learned a lot of different stuff. I played a lot of different wind instruments. I played the saxophone, and I played the clarinet. I played the flute. I played the trumpet. I suck at the trumpet, or anything that has that whole thing. I'm horrible at it. But I started learning playing all these different instruments because music became resonating. And when I say resonating, like fighting for first chair was like a thing.
yeah.
Like it became a thing. And I just met an old friend of mine, Amy, who, like, there were 3 of us that were competing for first alto chair for like almost like 5 years. Like, and like we became like best friends. But getting into the music and the transition post-military, like I played music my entire career. Like I was playing music in San Diego when the grunge era was happening. When I was in '94, like I was playing at coffee shops with like I literally just was in Alaska talking to Otsley Kilcher 2 years ago. Yeah. Not last year, but the year before last. And no, it was last year. Sorry. So last year I was in Alaska with Otts Kilcher. For those of you who don't know, it's the Alaska, the last frontier on Discovery. Who's also Jules family.
Huh.
Otts Lee
Yeah.
and I were talking around the fire up until about 1 o'clock daylight PM, or AM,
Yeah.
1 o'clock AM in the middle of summer, because it's still sunlight at like 2 o'clock in the morning. And we're sitting around and we're talking about some of the same places that we were playing in San Diego when they were driving around in the van. And like, dude, we were all playing the same stuff. We were all playing in the same places. And then Jewel just happened to get picked up. And I was like, I remember hearing her on the radio, and I was like, I know that voice.
Yeah.
I know that voice.
That's awesome.
You know what I mean? So I was cutting my teeth musically in San Diego during that whole grunge era. I remember being on Mission Beach for MTV Grind 2 years in a row. At one point, I could have flipped Mark McGrath in the testicles. I was standing so close. Like, no joke. Like, all joking aside, Sugar Ray was on stage, and I was like, "Oh, cool, Sugar Ray, woo, woo," but like, I was a 19-year-old kid, like whatever, you know.
That's wild.
So all of that stuff happened, and then war breaks out, right? So I took a guitar on every deployment I ever went on, because why not? You know, we'll be in the middle. We'll be on the. There's a picture of me somewhere on the beach of Seychelles with a bunch of naked women running around, and a bunch of Navy sailors hanging out around me with a guitar. Like, and it's weird because there's all these naked chicks, and all the dudes are just like, you know, wrapped up in towels, and like, I don't know what to do with my hands, you know. If you ain't chewing big red gum, then you ain't. Yeah. So, but that was, so every deployment I always took a guitar on, and we played music, and I would play covers back then. That's what I did. That's what I knew. I didn't start writing music probably until, well, that's not really true. I think I started writing music right around like 90, 95, 96. 90, 96, somewhere in the 90s. I started writing my own music. And then it just kind of grew from there. It was kind of something that I just, you know, what do you like? All right, what's next? You know what I mean? Like, all right, we're going to walk up this hill. Well, there's another hill there. Do you want to walk up that one, or do you want to stand here? Well, let's go see what's on top of that mountain. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of how it was. And like, it just never stopped. Like today, like I could sit here and just retire and relax. But why?
Right.
Like, but why? Like, let's just go play some music. So music became my therapy on the way out the door. I took a guitar to Fallujah. I bought listen, I'm gonna tell you, like, there's a picture of me sitting in front of this massive Marine Corps flag.
Yep.
In the Fallujah atrium, the auditorium. And just after I played this like 5-song set, Toby Keith and Ted Nugent walk out on the stage, and Ted Nugent goes, "Dude, that was a cool set." And I'm like, yes. Like, Ted Nugent probably will never remember me, but that moment in my life was the moment that I realized that I'm chasing this star, and you can kiss my butt.
That's awesome. I remember when Toby Keith was over there, unless he did more than one. It was 04. It was 04 going in 05, because it was the one USO thing I almost got a chance to see. I got there. You
were probably like singing somewhere where you couldn't get out of there, and you're like, "Oh well, looks like we're gonna go drink river water again."
No one was really told about it, and then by the time I found out, I literally got there right as it was done, and he was walking out, and I was within like maybe 4 or 5 puddles of soldiers trying to get his autograph.
No way, man.
Here's a funny part. I missed everything. I didn't see his show. I was like, this is awesome. He's right there.
Yeah.
And someone jumped in front of me. I only saw the back, and it was like like almost like a teenage girl. No offense to teenage girls, but a grown man jumps in front. Toby, sign my. I think he had a CD or whatever. And
sign my underwear. Sign my underwear.
And I won't say who, but I will say it was an 07.
Shocker. Shocker.
I could just picture that vividly in my mind. Like, what?
I'm not shocked.
And then that was like about face, and I walked away because I'm not gonna.
Yeah. Thanks, General. You're sad. you make my heartstrings sad. Yeah. No. Yeah. It's, man, like that's the crazy part. Like, when you're over, it's, man, let's not get into that, because we can defamate all kinds of character that way.
But it does show the strength of music, right? It shows the power.
Absolutely.
Of music. He lost all military bearing.
I don't know that that's what you were trying to do, but it sounded good. Nice recovery.
Oh, it's fantastic.
I was pulling guard duty that day, and then he was in the dining facility later. Gracious guy, just made time for everyone. Took as long as it took.
Yeah.
To say hi, shake hands, and sign stuff with everyone.
Yep.
Rest his soul.
We went over, and they're like, "You bringing your guitar?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not bringing my guitar. I'm not getting up doing this little freaking." And so I tell everybody that I opened for Ted Nugent and Toby Keith, because technically I did. I just wasn't on the USO bill.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So, but I tell everybody I opened for Ted Nugent, Toby Keith, and Fallujah, and they're like, "What?" And I'm like, "Yeah, totally." But so we got done. We got there, and the guys had snuck my guitar over. And then right before they came on, they asked, like, you'd hear them, they would start rumbling, dog book, dog book, dog book. And I'm like, shut up, whatever. And they're like, no, dog, we got your guitar. I'm like, I hate you people. So, so of course, I ended up on stage doing a couple of tunes. And then, you know, they're like, hey, it's time for you to get off the stage because we've got some real people. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool, whatever. So I came off the stage. They gave me my little, you know, round of applause. And of course, Ted Nugent and Toby Keith walked out, and that was it. And I was like, yeah, this is the moment. And so the transition after that, coming out of there, like when I retired, music never really left. Like, and I got to the point, I left Fallujah and I went to a schoolhouse, and then we started a band called Slack Noise. And we were all corpsmen and Marines.
Wow.
And we started this band, and I'll never forget, we played at this place called Cheeseburgers in Camp Lejeune, which is basically in middle of downtown Camp Lejeune.
Yeah.
And Cheeseburgers has since then become a car lot, all kinds of weird stuff. But Cheeseburgers literally was a bar and grill. And we're playing in the middle of like we ended up moving like 3 booths in the center of the bar grill area so we could put up our band equipment and play in the middle of this bar / grill. So until 9 o'clock, it was all burgers. It was all alcohol and stupid stuff. And so we would play music in there, and we were loud. When I say loud, like I remember walking out of there, and I've been blown up a few times, and I promise you, my ears are still ringing from playing at Cheeseburgers. So, you know,
Blew the tops off everyone's buns.
Facts. There were no sesame seeds on any of those. None.
That's awesome.
But yeah, it became my therapy, man. Music became my therapy. And it was my music back then was so angry. So angry. Like I still play a lot of that music just because it's part of my path. And a lot of that stuff hasn't even been recorded. There are so many songs that I have that I need to just I need to do a GoFundMe or a Kickstarter to make, like, I don't know, 300 grand just so I can go into the studio and record all of this music, because at the end of the day, all that music is very important to my process. It's not necessarily something you guys would like to listen to, because there's a lot of F-bombs and a lot of your soul and nobody likes you and I hate you people and get out of my face before I break your neck, and like I'll stab you and go to sleep after eating a bowl of Cheerios, whatever, like stuff like that. Like there's stuff like that in that music, and it's not, you know, people tell me all the time, you should write an anthem, you should write a happy song, and I'm like, for those of you on the radio show that can't see my face right now, it's basically vapid. Because when they're like, you should write a happy song, and I'm like, cricket. So, but I write music that literally resonates with me, and most of the time my music had become my therapy, and when it did, it saved my life. To be honest with you, music did save my life at one point. So there's your long walk around the tree for that answer.
That's maybe what a lot of folks fail to realize when they say stuff like that, is that those darker themes, that catharsis that you're working through, that's the path to the happy for musicians.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I said earlier. Like when we were talking about like what has made me the man that I am, like all of those things, and then learning how to walk through them. Like I spent the better part of 50 years. I'll be 50, but I'll be 50, you know, this month. And where I'm standing, the last 4 years of my life has probably been the better part of my life, because the rest of my life, I've literally been trying to avoid all of the small, intricate, little mind breaking traumas that I've experienced in life. And trauma is relative to the individual. You know, going back to my childhood, I never thought half of the things that I experienced were really trauma. And they really weren't. But I guess in the moment that they were, and that's just how therapy works. But not dealing with all those things over all the time in my life just compounds, especially when you put it in the middle of a combat soup. You know, it makes things worse. So therapy, like music, saved my life.
And I would have to take the stand that it's also, your music's also helping other people in the same exact spot,
paying it forward.
So you're once again Doc Book, you know.
That's bro, like, thank you. Yeah. Thank you for saying that. I don't necessarily walk around with that shield, but it's basically what's happening. I'm not trying to be a corpsman anymore, but I am.
Yeah.
I will always be a doc. I don't know how to explain that, or I don't know how to break that down. You know, I still get phone calls. Hey man, I got this thing. And I'm like, well, I need some blood tests and maybe an x-ray, but I think you should probably call your doctor, but this is what I think it is. And then they'll go see somebody like, oh yeah, that the doctor was like, oh yeah, that's what that is. And you're like, yeah, like, why didn't you just become a PA? And I'm like, well, I was on my way, but PTS and stuff, you know. I didn't want to have to listen to Tommy talk about Sally in the movie theater on Saturday, whatever, in classroom, like whatever. No. So I wasn't in the headspace to do it at the time. I wanted to. I was going to go to med school, but it just didn't happen.
Yeah, it's got a different purpose for you, and you're reaching so many people with your music. So
that's awesome, man. Thank you.
I want to make sure we don't miss out on how our listening audience can find you online. I know you have a couple of things out there, social media, of course, but I also love the name of your website. So deliberatelybroken.com. That's still a good.
That's right. That's deliberatelybroken.com is for the up and coming band that is starting. And then shannonbookmusic.com is also, and they're all, let me just tell you, there's so much construction. It's like an I-35 corridor here in Texas. There's always construction. So just check it out. There's merchandise and stuff on those, but you, like, anywhere you get your digital music, anywhere you see the people that you follow, that's where you can find me. YouTube, all those things, Amazon, all that stuff. Yeah. So, and you can find me pretty much anywhere. I mean,
yeah, and we'll have some links on our site as well, folks. If you happen to be listening to this afterwards or whatever, if you missed any of the sites he mentioned, you can find it underneath his biography and his biopic on the Lima Charlie Show website as well. So, but this is fun. I do want to ask you one kind of a fun question. I kind of throw this out there usually just for fun. Knowing everything you have gone through, like you said, you've had a lot of time to reflect in the last few years for sure. You've been able to process a lot of things. If you had like a minute to time travel and you could only go back in time and talk to your younger self for like a minute or so, what would be, in a brief amount of time, what would be the message to yourself before you went on this incredible journey and served your country? And everything since.
That's like, most people are like, oh my God, that's so daunting. I don't even know what to say to that. I'm going to tell you, it's real simple for me. Pay attention, fool.
Pay attention.
Pay attention. Pay attention, fool. People are telling you what not to do. Just pay attention. Yeah. Like, pay attention. That's how you get out of trouble. Don't get in it. Like, listen to God and the people who are trying to help you. Stop being a fool. Yeah. Like, that would be the easiest and most simple thing to say to myself in a matter of seconds. Because to be honest with you, like, I don't know about you guys, but there might have been times where people were like, well, you don't need to be doing that. And I went and did it just because. Like,
Exactly.
you don't tell me what to do. You're not my mom, and my mom don't tell me what to do till she has a knife in my neck, you know? like my mom never did that. She might have pointed one at me and told me that she brought me into this life. She did that once. She was cutting potatoes or something, and she had I'll never forget that night. I might have got a little lippy. You don't ever get lippy with a Kentucky woman. She'll stab you. She'll kill you. She'll leave you in the pig lot.
There's 2 drawers in the kitchen. One's utensils for cooking, and one's utensils for teaching.
Facts. I don't know if you've ever been hit with a meat tenderizer, but it don't feel good.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, folks, this has just been a real treat for all of us. Ron and I here sitting with Shannon Book, fantastic singer-songwriter, served his time, served our country, Navy Corpsman, true and forever. And please follow his work. Please support him and his fellow musicians. Check out what he's up to, shannonbook.com, deliberately broken.com. You can find out more on our website if you missed any of the details. And share this with your friends and network and help him continue to share these fantastic songs. And
Please.
of course, in your honor, we're going to play one of yours right now, and we'll take a short break. But I want to thank you again for joining us. And we got to do this again sometime. Yeah.
Don't you threaten me with a good time, because I'll show up here. I'll show up here in my birthday suit and eating Fruity Pebbles. Yeah. Promise.
We got to get a few gigs for you on the books up here. And
don't threaten me. I'm telling you, it's going to be bad. You threaten me that there's going to be a horse storm.
Yeah. All right, folks. Here is a fantastic piece here from Shannon Book. Enjoy.